Today we're going to work on solving radical equations. And remember, when we want to solve a system of any type, you want to set these two equations equal to each other. So we look at our first example here. We have y equals and y equals. So that means you can set these two equations equal to one another. So negative 2 times the third root of x plus 3 is equal to 7. And when you're solving equations with a radical, square root, a third root, fourth root, whichever the radical is, you want to work to get that radical by itself. Because right now, if I were to raise everything to the third power to cancel out the third root, that would make this problem a bit more complicated. So I'm first going to subtract 3 from both sides and get negative 2 times the third root of x equals 4. Now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And the third root of x is equal to negative 2. So now what I'll do is I will raise each side to the third power. Just like when we were solving quadratic equations, if we were to square root both sides, that would have canceled out the second power, or the squared part of our x. Doing that here, third power and third root would cancel out. So you're left with x equals negative 2 to the third power is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is negative 8. Now on the calculator, if we do negative 2 to the third power, you may say, well, negative 8, good, I got the same answer. You always want to put your numbers, especially if they're negative, in parentheses. So we have negative 2 to the third power, and we still get negative 8. The reason I'm bringing this up is because if you were to have an exponent that was even, like a second power or a fourth power, and you don't have those parentheses, you will get the wrong answer. So our answer here is x equals negative 8. We go and look at this problem. It looks a little bit more complicated, but we'll do the same thing. We'll do 2 times the third root of x is equal to the third root of x minus 7. So here we have a cube root on both sides. And we can't really combine them, so what we're going to do instead is we're going to raise each side of the third power right away. Be careful on the left side. It's really 2 to the third power times the third root of x to the third. This third power's got to go to both things. And it's very easy to miss this right here, the 2 to the third. And that equals, well, these will cancel. So you're left with x minus 7. Well, 2 to the third power is 8. Third root of x to the third power is this x. So we have 8x equals x minus 7. We'll then subtract x from both sides. And we get x equals negative 7. So this stuff isn't really much more complicated than what you've been doing before. You're just now having to do the third power to both sides, or raise everything to the third power, or cubing it. That's another term that you can use. And it's pretty straightforward right now. However, when you are squaring both sides or raising each side to an even power, you got to make sure to plug your solutions back in to make sure they work, because you can't take the square root of a negative number, and that could give you some issues. If we look at number 3 right here, what if we get x equals -5? Well, if I plug in -5 for my x, that's going to give us a non-real solution, so that solution isn't going to work. So you got to make sure you plug in your solution or solutions. You could have more than one answer to see if those solutions work. So in number 3, we'll have -2 equals the square root of x plus 4. Okay, so we'll subtract 4 from both sides. We get -2 minus 2 is -4. Whoops. Let me redo that. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. -2 minus 4 is -6 equals the square root of x. And we'll square both sides. And this is where I was talking about if you don't do parentheses, you're going to get the wrong answer. Watch, -6 squared is -36, but parentheses -6 squared is +36. So 36 is equal to x. You need to go and plug that back in to the original equation. So I'm going to plug that in. -2 equals the square root of 36 plus 4. -2 equals the square root of 36 is 6 plus 4. -2 equals 10. That's not true. Not true. So there's no solutions. So yeah, when you are squaring both sides, you need to double check your answers to make sure they work. All right, now with number 4, we'll set everything equal to each other. 2x is equal to the square root of x plus 3. Square both sides. And just like what we did in the problem right above this, when you square this left side, you got to square both things. So 2 squared is 4. So we have 4x squared equals 4x squared is equal to, these cancel, so you're left with x plus 3. Okay, so now we have a quadratic function. 4x squared equals x plus 3. So we have to use our methods of solving quadratics. We're going to have to factor this. So I'm going to subtract x and 3 from both sides. And you're left with 4x squared minus x minus 3 equals 0. So now we need to factor this using our skills from the quadratics unit. And we're going to be doing the x box. So -1 goes on the bottom of the x, and then -12 goes on the top of the x. So 2 numbers that multiply to -12 but add to -1, that's going to be -4 and +3. So when I do my box, we're still going to put 4x squared in the upper left, -3 in the lower right. And then -4x and 3x. So GCF of the first column is 4x. GCF of the second column is 3. And on the left side, 4x times x gives you 4x squared. 3 times -1 gives you -3. So my factored form will be 4x plus 3 times x minus 1. So then to calculate my zeros, 4x plus 3 equals 0, subtract 3. 4x equals negative 3. We get x equals negative 3 over 4. And then for this right here, is this x equals 1. So we have to plug both of those back in. And to be completely honest, I would just plug them into this one right here first, because if that gives you an error, then you know the other part won't work regardless. So I'm going to write out what I'm going to do. So we have the square root of x, which we're going to try 1 first. 1 plus 3 equals 2 times x, 1. So I'm testing x equals 1 right here. So 1 plus 3 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. The square root of 4 is 2. 2 does equal 2. So that's one of our solutions. Now I'm going to try negative 3/4. So the square root of 3/4 plus 3 equals 2 times 3/4. So what you can do is get out your calculator. And when we get out our calculator, I'm going to type in the square root of 3/4 plus 3. And see, I get 1.936 and so on. If I do 2 times, you can write 3/4 this way as well. I don't get anything close. I mean, yeah, for the first one with the square root, you may say, well, if you round it differently, you get a different number, but these aren't even close. Rounding isn't going to change this. So you get 1.94 on the left side equals 1.5. That's not going to work. So no, this is not a solution. Our only solution is x equals 1. You need to check both of these. So that is something I will expect to see, is that once you get your numbers, I expect you to check them. Now the last problem on the next page doesn't look too bad at first, but it's going to require a bit of work. So we have x plus 3. So you have the square root by itself already, so we're going to square both sides. The problem is when we square the left side, and I know we've talked about this before, if I do 5 squared, that's 5 times 5. If you have x squared, that is x times x. If you have x plus 3 squared, that is x plus 3 times x plus 3. So we need to multiply that out. So this is really x plus 3 times x plus 3. And that will equal just x plus 3. And you may say, well, can't I just divide both sides by x plus 3 right now? If you do that, then you're getting rid of one of your possible solutions. So you don't want to do that. So on the left side here, I'm going to multiply that using the box. If you know how to FOIL instead, you can do that. But I think doing it this way with the box kind of helps you with factoring as well. X times x is x squared. 3 times x is 3x. X times 3 is 3x again. And 3 times 3 is 9. So then I'm going to get x squared, 3x plus 3x is 6x plus 9 is equal to x plus 3. So now I'm going to simplify this. Subtract x from both sides. Subtract 3 from both sides. So we get x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. And then we need to factor this. So if we do our x, okay, we need two numbers that multiply to 5, add to 5 but multiply to 6. That is 3 and 2. So let's draw our box. And we're going to have x squared and 6. And then 3x and 2x. Your GCF of the first column is x. GCF of the second column is 2. And then x times x equals x squared. 2 times 3 is 6. So my two solutions, my factors are x plus 3 times x plus 2. So now my solutions are going to be x equals -3 and x equals -2. So we're going to take both of those and plug them into our original function. Remember, our original function is x plus 3 equals the square root of x plus 3. So we're going to plug in both answers. We're going to plug in -3 and -2. So -2 plus 3 equals the square root of -2 plus 3. Well, -2 plus 3 is 1 equals the square root of 1. 1 equals 1. That is true. So -2 works. Now let's try -3. -3 plus 3 equals the square root of -3 plus 3. -3 plus 3 is 0 equals the square root of 0. Well, 0 is equal to 0. So that works too. So both of your solutions work. Don't think that one has to work, one won't work. They both could work. They both might not work, or one could work and the other not. So it is important to do your checking to make sure. So thank you for watching the video. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.